So let's start from some first principles economics. Carbon dioxide is a pollutant. It is a global public bad, and we in India equally have skin in the game, because if there is climate difficulties worldwide, we will likely be affected more than many others, given the difficulties of state capacity in India. And there is a tragedy of the commons. It is efficient for each country to pollute and let somebody else be more careful, and let somebody else do the hard work of the post-carbon transition. There is undoubtedly a problem of climate justice, particularly expressed per person. India did not put the bulk of this carbon dioxide in the air. It's been done by other countries. However, now let's start looking forward, looking at the world around us. The simple position in India that this is not my problem and somebody else has got to solve it, I think that position is increasingly untenable. What has changed is the politics of advanced countries. The electorate, the masses in advanced countries have shifted to a reasonably hawkish position on climate change. So in terms of sheer cold calculations of India's interests in international relations, it will be increasingly costly for India to be recalcitrant and for India to emit carbon dioxide. So we need to change course, and we need to find a way in which on an incremental basis we shift our developmental strategy away from carbon, and also we phase out fossil fuels in terms of the stock of equipment that is there in India today. Now, the good news in all this is that there has been quite a technological revolution in renewables, in storage, and in the smart grid. India is a late starter in development. Per capita, the electricity system is reasonably small today. And so going forward, if we think of the incremental electricity that will be required for India to become an advanced country, it is quite feasible to move a lot of that to non-fossil fuels. And also we have to deal with the transformation of our existing electricity sector. Now, in this, I feel that a central piece of the story is taxation of carbon. What I feel is the wisest and most efficient strategy, the welfare maximizing strategy, is to do decarbonization through a carbon tax, not through government regulation. So if a government tries to think that we should have this efficiency standard for a light bulb, or we should have this solar photovoltaic plant at this location, then it will be equivalent to having many different prices of carbon at different places in the country. And in the economic analysis of pollution, this is well understood to demand a higher tax on Indian welfare. The welfare maximizing adjustment is obtained through a carbon tax, where there is a single price for carbon applicable everywhere in India. And we pre-announce a 25-year trajectory about how the carbon tax rate will go up. And then after that, lots of decisions will take place, both on the generation side and on the consumption side. And the entire economy will discover the welfare maximizing path to the decarbonization. So we should resist the idea that some government is going to figure it out. It is too complex for any government bureaucracy to understand the richness and complexity of the country. It should be led by the people. The people know best at each location what is the best way to move forward. The firms, the users, the consumers will all figure out welfare maximizing adjustments, and as a country we'll get the job done at a lower cost in welfare. Now I want to offer a intuition into the carbon transition for the existing fossil fuel assets through the notion of creative destruction. So let me start with an example that imagine there is a firm that makes blue denim. Okay, so there was a time when the Indian firm Arvind Mills built the world's biggest factory to make denim. Okay, now the world changed, and for whatever reason, blue jeans became unfashionable. It's just a part of life. The world changes. No firm is given a guarantee that the future will be the same. Preferences change, technology changes, the world changes. And so some firms just do very badly, their capital stock gets destroyed, and this is part of life. Okay, so a healthy country, a healthy society is one that embraces creative destruction. That it's a part of life. Some new industries are born, some new firms are born, some old firms die out. This just goes on. There's a great churning. It happens all the time. Okay, all of us remember there used to be millions of STD PCO booths all over India, each of them probably employing two people. Okay, so it was a great industry that sprang up at a certain moment in the history of telecom technology in India. It employed multi-million people. Okay, and then mobile roaming came along, and that entire industry died out, and millions of people lost their jobs. That's just the normal, everyday, healthy working of the market economy. Okay, or consider a firm that makes cigarettes. Okay, so there was a time when tobacco was seen as a legitimate stimulant alongside caffeine. Okay, and then the views on health changed, that tobacco was considered very harmful. And then there's been a crazy escalation of taxation of tobacco. And for the shareholders of cigarette companies, that's been pretty rough. That is just, this is a part of life. That if you were an investor, if you were a shareholder, and you owned the shares of a cigarette company, then the world changed in a way that was unpleasant to you, and that's just a part of life. These things happen all the time. I would just like to normalize that creative destruction. I think that's a useful lens in which to think about carbon dioxide emissions. Okay, you are Mukesh Ambani. You became the richest guy in Asia by building the world's largest refinery. Okay, and it's a very healthy feature of the world that this is not a locked in thing that you'll keep on generating cash from this forever. Okay? The worst possible disaster happened to Reliance Industries, which is that the world woke up and said that no, carbon dioxide is a pollutant. We don't like the emission of carbon dioxide. And I am proposing, Akshay and I are proposing that we should be taxing carbon emissions. We should be taxing carbon dioxide emissions. We should have very high taxes on carbon dioxide emissions in the future, so that there will be no liquid petroleum products that are used for the purpose of mobility. That would be a disaster for a firm like Reliance, because they produce the petroleum products that are used for mobility today. This is just a part of life. These changes have happened. You cannot complain about them. The world has changed. Now we just have to go through the resolution that some firms will go bankrupt, many assets will be shut down, many factories will be sold for scrap value, many mines will turn into forests. This is a part of life. And if we try to resist, then we will needlessly increase our cost of this transition. Okay, this is my long-winded way of coming to the main subject of this meeting, which is finance for the new energy system. The most important intuition that Akshay and I will offer you is that we should not think about governments as the pathway in finance. Finance does not largely move government to government. Finance largely moves from person to person, from private people to private people. It's a private person in India who builds a renewables company. It's a private person in India who will invest in a high quality distribution company. And the investors for these firms are all over the world. They are private people. The debt and equity capital for this comes from all over the world. The advanced countries have done a great thing in terms of building a new world of ESG investment, where effectively what has happened is that today in India, you cannot meaningfully finance a fossil fuel project anymore. Only the Indian state is immune to thinking about financial considerations and continues to invest in fossil fuels.